Thanks for joining. And as Andreas was saying, two of our colleagues just arrived from DRC. This was Peter Bock and Dr. Franziska Steinbruch. So really thank them as well. They did a good job there, and they provided some additional information that I was not able to provide in the slides, but I will then comment through the presentation for reference. If there's any particular question that I cannot answer, then they probably can support me with the answers. So as Andreas was already saying, this project is ongoing, and as a good story, there's always a second part. So if you're interested on what happens afterwards, we invite you already for the next year's symposium to see the results. But let's see what's happening at the moment. So this project was intended or is intended for the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, because as you have heard, probably not the most recent news, but the older news, this is a country that is endowed with a lot of mineral resources, especially the ones from this energy transition that we are discussing right now. So that's where I want you to focus, because anyhow, but at the moment, you have heard a lot about Ebola and these things. DRC is still one of the most important countries regarding resources, and that's why it requires a lot of attention, especially about the social and environmental impact about mining in this country, which some people think, okay, let's concentrate in mining, but what happens actually with the impacts? So this is the agenda. I will cover it very roughly. I cannot go too much into detail, but I welcome you to ask particular questions if you're interested. So the project was or is intended to focus on these three particular objectives. One of the main ones that we are going to discuss at the moment is about making an inventory about the environmental and social impacts regarding the mining sector. So again, you have seen that we have all the copper belt, all these effects from the artisanal mining. This can be seen through satellite imagery. So we want to portray first to understand what's actually happening at the moment in the country, to really link these two components, the production of minerals, but also these impacts, and try to understand what can be done better and what's actually being done at the moment. So the third objective, as I was saying, is identify measures to determine how to implement better practices to improve or reduce actually the effect on this on the environment, for example, and the communities over there. Another very important, let's say, effect of the mining there that perhaps you are not aware, or it's not very, let's say, fresh in your minds, is also deforestation there. That's one of the key issues that we want to understand in this project. So this project was or is divided in certain phases. We are currently in phase number 2. As I said, our colleagues have done already some public consultations. Why? Because this is one of the best ways to gather information, is actually go to the field, understand what people think, what are the opinions, and gather this information for decision making. After this, we are able to gather this information to be able to develop or understand how the policies that are currently run in the country can be improved, can be, let's say, reformed to improve or reduce actually the effects of mining, but also improve the quality of life of people in the country. After this, we, of course, are very interested in capacity building to show them how to do this themselves, to proceed and not leave this project as it is and left in the past. And finally, finalization, that the client is happy with what we have done and that there is continuation sustainability in this project. So let's concentrate first in understanding a little bit of the context. So for those of you that are not very familiar, this is how DRC looks. And on the map on the right, it's a little bit easier to see the regions, but most importantly, where the current known mineral occurrences and mine sites are. So as you see, this is very much, let's say, concentrated towards the south and towards the east, and that's actually one of the reasons why we concentrate in certain regions that I will let you know in a few slides. But most importantly, again, what we are trying to do is gather or make an inventory on the current environmental and social impacts in the country. So for this, we need to understand which are the most important stakeholders in this analysis. As you can see here, we have identified this. So as I showed you in the first phase, we need to understand or first make a review of what exists and what is important for the study. So from here, we then were able to identify what are the environmental, social hazards and risk analysis. Yes, in these projects, it's a little bit hard to concentrate on all possible risks, but we can rank them and concentrate in the most important, the most relevant that are require more attention at the moment. But however, the important, as I told you, is that since this project is meant to be sustainable, then with this ranking, the government can then proceed and analyze further what other risks are related and known with related to the mining industry. So from here, we were able to identify 11 strategic risks for this particular project. As you can see here, I have shown 9 of them. But the most important thing is to understand what is then relevant and what are we going to study and how we can focus our consultations and field visits to concentrate on these risks. This is a summary of what we had discovered before, like documentary review. This was again the phase 1 or the commencement of the project. And as you can see, there are certain regions where we can find that there is already certain risk associated. Again, due to the length of the project, we were not able to visit all the regions, so we concentrated in the most important ones based on this documentary review. From this, we need to understand that the different stakeholders have a different perception of risk. So this will depend on how we engage the different stakeholders to review what they think about this. For example, and identify where there's potential gaps that we should cover. We should go then to the consultations and find out this information that is missing. On the other hand, we need to understand, again, this impact evaluation. This goes in hand with the risk analysis or the table that I showed you, and identify, okay, what are the risks that perhaps are known or not known by the people there, by the different stakeholders, but review this anyway. And from there, we can identify the strategic alternatives and policy options. So again, from inventory and information that we have gathered, we are able to build or propose policy options, policy reforms to the actual, let's say, laws that are in the country to better assess the situation. So there's different ways or there's a current situation. So one of the issues that was identified before the commencement of the project was that there's many platforms, many reviews, many papers identifying or assessing impacts, social impacts, environmental impacts, but nothing was really integrated into a specific platform or analysis. So that's what we are trying to do here. From all this the distributed information around the internet, around the ministries, gather all this information to be able to provide the best policy solution to the current situation of the country. Yeah? Sorry, that took a little bit longer. No? So from this perspective, we decided to concentrate in 5 regions. One of the regions actually we had to change because, let me just check here. Yeah, we changed Maniema by Tanganyika. There's different, of course, reasons that we cannot visit certain regions because of security and related. So the idea was to concentrate on regions that are very much affected by all these risks and impacts that you saw before, but also where there is a significant occurrence of mines or occurrences or artisanal mining sites that are relevant for the study. Here you can see the elements or the commodities that are actually analyzed from these regions that are relevant for our study. No? These are some examples of what we had done before that was relevant for our study. So we see that there is definitely a lot of effect in the environment, but also social, let's say, welfare. And from here, I also added these additional photos. I was able to add this. So I have in the title public consultations. Not all of them are public consultations, only the one here at the corner. But the phase, as you saw before, was public consultations. So the point here is to understand that public consultations are not only gathering information, consulting the people, so mining companies, or let's say artisanal miners, let's say ministry workers, but also visit sites to understand what's actually happening there. So that's why I included here. And the information that got from our colleagues is that we actually were very successful in making these consultations. We got up to 50 people that participated in these consultations, gathering people from government institutions, municipalities, NGOs, mining companies, and academics, which was really good because we got different perspectives of different people. And one of the big issues that currently happen in DRC is that usually these different groups that I just told do not communicate between each other or have, let's say, a lot of conflict between each other. So getting all these people together in a room and talk about these issues is already a good, let's say, step forward. And the outcomes are, for example, stakeholder shared concerns and priorities, written contributions collected, and strong amount of useful data under analysis that allows us then to be able to provide enough information for this policy analysis and policy proposals. So, oh, why did it go back? Okay, there you go. So for this now, one of the things that we did parallel to this project was the development of this platform. And again, I commented that currently there's hundreds of platforms that show information about deforestation, occurrence, mining commodities, mining sites, and all this information is distributed around the internet, but there's nothing that actually integrates it all. So that's also one of the objectives of the project is gather all this information, also the public consultations, and gather them in this unified central hub. So the idea is that this hub is actually developed to simplify the analysis and gathering of data, even for the ministry staff, where they can quickly upload. We have already implemented some very basic AI capabilities that, for example, when people upload a document, this document gets automatically analyzed and summaries and metadata is already produced here. And then this is an good platform and source of information for future projects and also for the managing of data. So pretty much, this is in French, but pretty much this works in this workflow, which is, for example, documents and consultations. All this comes into the platform, and then analysis can be actually seen in real time and get information on how many people participated, which areas were covered, what was answered, and so on and so forth. So conclusions, the most important, you can see important information here, but what I want to give you as a takeaway message is what we did here was we collected valuable input from key mining stakeholders. So as you saw, we actually covered all the stakeholders that we planned at the beginning. We observed definitely severe impacts from industrial and artisanal mining, as you saw from the pictures, from field visits. So this is actually ongoing. It's not something that is in the past or this was invented, but it's actually something happening at the moment. The findings complemented the commentary review. So from the first analysis that we did, from what we see from what is happening in the country, we can actually add this additional information to be able then again to be able to put our emphasis and influence in the good sense in the policies of the country to be able to develop something towards improving the situation that is currently in the country. More consultations are still planned. So this is actually also planned that we did consultations right now, then another set of consultations in August to make some sort of, let's say, follow-up of what has been studied here and to analyze if what we have discovered so far, what we want to propose in the policies is actually a good idea, and share this with, of course, again, with the stakeholders to know if this is a good approach. And the next step is doing recommendations, best practice guide for mining governance, and improving this policy making. What I did not comment at the beginning is this project is directly or the client is the state in Congo through the Ministry of Mines and Environment. And this is funded by GIZ. So this is, of course, thank you to them that this can be carried out. And I think it's actually bringing good effects into what can be done in the country. That's what I had for today. If you have questions, feel free to ask. And again, my colleagues that were in the field can answer more precisely if needed.